Chapter 11. Exercises. There are several exercises that I have found to be invaluable to an actor, either in preparing for the role or in training to become an actor. They are the repetition exercise, the 3-moment exercise, the superlative exercise, tell me about the time exercise, laying face-to-face exercise, relating the event exercise, and the paraphrasing exercise. I will talk about each of these in turn. But first, I want to define what I am talking about when I say exercise. In acting terms, an exercise is something you do to make it easier for you to understand the character, do the role, or be a better actor. But why go to all the trouble to talk about what an exercise is in the first place? I do this because people tend to get stuck in these exercises, thinking that they are the be-all and end-all of acting. This happens especially if a teacher puts it in their heads that this is so. The be-all and end-all of acting is the moment-to-moment work of your performance, on stage in front of the audience, or on set in front of a camera. Everything an actor does should be geared to making that as easy and as clear as possible. So let's start. Exercise 1. The repetition exercise. Have you ever heard the saying that what an actor should do most is to listen? I have, over and over again. But until I trained with this exercise, I didn't know what that meant, or why it was so important. In the section on the emotional bridge, I quoted Stanislavski. I will show you that quote again. The source of an actor's inner life is the object on which they place their attention. The biggest trap that an actor falls into is internalizing while they're acting. Their attention gets stuck inside themselves. The result of this is that they no longer see or react to the persons and events around them. When they do this, their acting ceases to have meaning to the audience, because the audience can no longer see what they are reacting to. If the audience can't see it and the actor reacts to it, then either the actor is mad, or the audience becomes confused. I don't want that. Do you? No. Good. So, the repetition exercise is designed to keep that from happening, by training the actor to focus outside themselves, and on the events and the people that surround them. It has another function, which is to train the actor to recognize and express their feelings. Here's the basic form of the exercise. 2 actors stand across from each other. One of the actors makes an observation or a statement about the other actor. Note: one important convention of repetition is that when you repeat, you switch the pronouns, so you are always speaking from your point of view. This is important because it maintains your point of view during the exercise. The second actor repeats verbatim what the first actor said, switching the pronoun. The 2 actors continue to repeat, back and forth, that same statement, until they get to an event that makes the statement change. One or the other of the actors will notice something about the other actor, a reaction, a physical action, that the second actor does, something that seems important, that shows something about that person. Once that change takes place, the 2 actors use that new statement, and continue to repeat. The exercise goes on for about 5 or 10 minutes, or until the instructor stops them. Then they alternate, starting the exercise, and the 2 of them do the exercise for another 5 or 10 minutes. The exercise is designed to train us to keep our attention outward, to observe, and to react. It is also designed to do this specifically, from our own point of view. The following is an example of pronoun switching. First actor: you have a blue shirt on. Second actor: I have a blue shirt on. First actor: you have a blue shirt on. Second actor: I have a blue shirt on. The shift from you to I keeps the point of view consistent. This exercise is important as a tool to train an actor to always be focused on the behavior of the other actor. There are rules to what events constitute a change in the repetition, and there are rules to what you can use to start the repetition. I call these rules because following them will force you to focus on the truth of the moment and the other person's behavior. The rules for starting the repetition are: first, use a simple observation or statement about the other person. You're wearing a brown shirt, or I like your brown shirt, are 2 examples of statements or observations that work well. It is not necessary to be clever. Simple, straightforward things are best. Second, do not use history or assumptions that refer to something that you cannot see right in front of you. This exercise is about the obvious, what exists at this moment, and nothing else. Because, when you act, you react to what is here at this moment, not what is somewhere else. Did you have spaghetti at lunch? Isn't about this moment. Third, the opening statement should never be said to provoke a reaction in the other actor. You look like a slut, or I don't like that smug look that you have, are ways of controlling the course of the exercise, and aren't helpful. Both actors are here to give themselves over to, and train themselves to focus their attention on the other person. Controlling the exercise is avoiding the experience, and won't help you learn. Fourth, don't use questions at the start of a repetition exercise, and try to avoid them during the course of the exercise. Questions invite dialogue, and repetition is not about dialogue. It is an exercise to teach the actor to focus their attention away from themselves, and onto the other actor, and to help them find their feelings. There is one question that is allowed during the course of the exercise, but I will talk about that in the next part. Here are the rules for changing the repetition during the exercise. Change up 1. Repetition build up. You have been saying, "You have a brown shirt on," for the last 3 minutes, and if you have to say it again, you will explode. Well, go ahead and explode. That is the truth of your feelings. That explosion is the change. Use it. The second reason that we do this exercise is to learn what our feelings are. Exploding at the sheer monotony of it is a feeling. Use it. Change up 2. The big event. You've been repeating the statement, "I think your smile is cute," and suddenly your partner begins to scowl furiously. That's the change. Use it. You are repeating along nicely, and your partner suddenly sneezes. That's the change. Use it. These first 2 changes only ask for you to observe the obvious. The next 2 changes introduce your feelings into the repetition. Change up 3. Your feeling about the big event. Your partner blushes furiously and you think it's cute. That's the change. Use it. Your partner gets a smug look on their face. You are offended by it. That's the change. Use it. Note: when I was talking earlier about not starting the repetition with a provocative statement, that rule is to forestall actors from controlling the repetition and avoiding their feelings. But repetition is not a goody-two-shoes sort of exercise. People have negative feelings, as well as positive feelings. Remember that besides learning how to keep our attention on the other person, you are learning how to recognize when you have a feeling, and what that feeling is. So if someone makes you angry or offends you, say so. I will give you a list of guidelines after I finish the part about the rules. Those guidelines will help you get a better understanding about what is appropriate to the exercise, and what will take you off track. Fourth, the added up attitude or behavior. Your partner has been snappy and cross from when you started repeating. You didn't notice it at first, but it has become obvious over the last minute. That's the change. Use it. Your partner seems vacant and not paying attention. At first it didn't annoy you, but now after a few minutes it does. That's the change. Use it. Fifth, the emotionally curious question. Your partner suddenly gets a funny look on their face. You see this and become concerned. You want to ask, "What's wrong?" That's the change. Use it. Your partner suddenly starts to laugh. This catches you off guard. You want to ask what's funny. That's the change. Use it. The important distinction here is that the change originates from a genuine, gut-level curiosity, from the truth of your feelings at this moment, and not some need that you may have to avoid your feelings or manipulate the exercise. Note: this isn't a blanket permission to ask questions. Sixth, the truthful answer. It happens that sometimes your partner does ask you a question. If the question is a genuine question and isn't just an attempt to manipulate you, then there is no reason that you shouldn't answer it in a genuine way. That's the change. Use it. However, if it is a manipulation, then that is also change. Use it. What follows is a list of the things that you should avoid during the exercise. This list isn't complete, and I am not going to go into explanations about every item. It is designed to give you an idea of the types of mistakes that actors make while learning this exercise. These are the things that you should avoid. These guidelines should help you find the truth of your feelings. They are not rules, because the truth of your feelings should always prevail. 1. Stick to the repetition, and don't make too many changes in a short period of time. 2. Use only the 6 types of changes outlined above. 3. Care for your partner with an unconditional loving relationship. Remember, you are doing an exercise, not playing a part. 4. Listen and repeat exactly to what is said, including any behavioral actions that have meaning, such as sighs, goofs, stutters, etc. 5. Do not manipulate your partner to generate a certain type of reaction, or to keep yourself from feeling anything. 6. Repeat responsively, and allow your partner to affect you. 7. Allow your feelings to come out. You are a living human being, let other people see that. 8. Say how your partner makes you feel. The truth of your feelings should always be allowed to come out. 9. Say only what you see your partner do now. This is an exercise about this moment, not some other moment. 10. Stay with the repetition until your partner changes it, or until you know how you feel, or something significant happens. 11. Don't deny what you see, or what you feel. That is the change. Use it. 12. If you see it or feel it, you are obligated to use it. 13. Don't help your partner out. Let them find their own feelings. 14. Don't clarify what you feel for your partner. 15. Don't justify or explain your feelings. 16. Don't get into a conversation. This is a repetition exercise. Repeat. 17. Don't drive the boat, or force the exercise to go a particular way. Allow yourself to go along for the ride. 18. Take everything your partner does, or says, personally. This isn't to say to always get offended by what they do or say. But you are not outside the repetition observing, you are inside participating. 19. Don't hold your feelings back. Not saying it is a way of avoiding it, or controlling the exercise and yourself. 20. Don't refer to the exercise. This breaks the fourth wall, and is a bad habit to get into. Well, just 20 of them. I am sure there are more, but for the moment these will do. Remember that these are guidelines, not rules. The big thing is to always remember that your object is to be there, to listen and respond. The truth of your feelings is the best guideline. Also, the repetition exercise is very important to your ability to be in the moment while you are acting. It's so important that it was the foundation for the full first year of my acting training, and was a big part of the second year of training as well. Let's move on to an exercise that is designed to help you focus in better on the behavior that you see. Exercise 2. The 3-moment exercise. Well, as you might have noticed, the behavior of the other person in repetition seems to be pretty important. It is, but just how do we get to the point where we can see the other person's behavior clearly? And how do we do this when for most of our lives, we have been taught to deny the behavior that we see in others? Clearly seeing behavior is a tall order. Or is it? When you think about it, what could be easier than seeing what someone does? It's right there in plain sight. However, it isn't that easy to see either. Someone who is pointing a gun at you is obviously threatening you. They certainly mean you harm. What could be more clear than that? In fact, most of us don't have trouble with the obvious events, like understanding someone pointing a gun at us. What we have trouble with is someone pointing an emotional gun at us, or other, more subtle behaviors that affect our life in an equally powerful way. It is in learning to see these subtle behaviors that we most often have the hardest time, and that is where this next exercise comes in handy. The 3-moment exercise is designed to train you to see behavior clearly. Here is the exercise. Just like the repetition exercise, you stand across from one another. One of the actors makes a statement or an observation. You have a blue shirt on. The other actor repeats, I have a blue shirt on. But, unlike the repetition exercise, while the second actor is repeating, the first actor concentrates on watching their behavior. Then, instead of continuing the repetition, the first actor describes to the second what they did physically while they repeated. Something like, you shifted your weight to your left foot and looked a little uncomfortable, then glanced to the right. The second actor listens, then tells the first actor how accurate their description was. The first actor does this 10 times, and then they switch off, and the second actor gets there 10 times. Since the foundation of our response to people is their behavior, you can see how this exercise would help you to sharpen your abilities to observe their actual behavior. Since you are training yourself to observe more accurately, there are not a lot of rules to how this exercise goes. There are a few pointers that I would like to put out there. When you first start doing this exercise, stick to what your partner does physically. See the physical actions first, the biggest, most obvious thing, and get used to observing those. They are the easy part. After a while you will begin to get a sense of how these physical behaviors reveal the inner attitudes of your partner. When that begins to happen, you can start to address yourself to them. After you get good at this, you will begin to see, from a person's behavior alone, a wealth of information about their attitudes and feelings. Also, asking questions is allowed in this exercise. While your partner will not answer the question directly, but will only repeat it, it is possible to see the answer in their behavior. One note of caution about asking questions. Sometimes we try to shock a response out of our partner by asking outrageous questions. You can do this, but it isn't very helpful. You need to be able to see clearly the subtle behaviors that give you the clues to people's inner workings. An outrageous question will provoke a big response, which is easy to see, which is fine, I suppose. But how often are you called on to react to the big graphic things, and how interesting will it be for the audience if that is all that they see you react to? Don't be lazy. The final part of this is that you should spend a considerable time working on this exercise. The sad part of our culture is how much we are trained to not see what is right there for us to look at. Daddy's drunk again, and we just won't see it. Let's pretend we don't hear Mommy and Daddy fighting. It takes a while for you to be trained to not see things, so it is going to take a while for you to begin to see clearly again. Give yourself the time that you need. Important note. These exercises are intended to be used under the guidance of a trained instructor. I recommend that you use them that way. You can use them with your partner without an instructor's help, but because of hidden things in people's psychologies, this can get sticky and cause problems. The instructor is there to see that this doesn't happen and to keep you on course. But, if you live in an area where you can't find this type of training, go ahead and work as hard as you can, and remember this one rule. The exercise space is a place where you can be free to do anything that you feel. But nothing that happens in the exercise space should ever be taken seriously outside of it. This is only an exercise. One other problem that you should be aware of is that doing these exercises with someone that you are emotionally involved with can sometimes force you to take things seriously and bring personal relationships into the exercise. This could have very serious consequences to your relationship. Also, when we begin to see clearly the things that are around us, we sometimes run across things that we don't like. This can also have very serious consequences to your relationship. Whatever you do, be careful with those around you. Increased vision can be devastating to your friends and family because they can't see it coming. So be fair to them and seek professional help before you make any changes based on your new vision. And remember that increased vision means seeing the good things as well as the less than good. Moving on. The previous two exercises are about your abilities to perceive and respond. To make you a responsive, fully available actor. The following 4 or so exercises all apply to the preparations that you make to do the roles, or while you are in rehearsal, to understand the character better. Exercise 3. The superlative exercise. The superlative exercise is designed to do several things for the actor. The first of these is to give them a means to practice taking an activity and turning it into an action. An activity is what you do, a superlative is the way you do it, and the resulting combination is an action. Since creating actions is one of your main functions as an actor, knowing how to do things in a particular way is pretty important. And knowing how to practice these ways of doing is also pretty important. Let's say that your situation is that you have to break the news to a friend about their lover, who you have found out is cheating on them. Your activity is to break the news. But what way are you going to break the news? The way will depend on any number of things, but whatever way you choose, this will be your superlative. Will you be the most harsh? Probably not, since this is a friend who you care about. Will you be the most gentle? That sounds better, but it could also be any number of different ways, all of which are subject to the necessities of the story. So the superlative is the ambition to do an activity in a certain way. For this exercise, having an ambition to do something in a certain way is important. Hold on to that thought. So you decide that in this particular activity, breaking the news, that you want to be the most gentle. You then practice telling your friend that their lover is cheating on them in the most gentle way that you can. This way of practicing is the exercise. You start from the beginning as if your friend were there, and you imaginatively do everything that you would do from start to finish, being the most gentle. You go over doing this activity in this way for around 5 minutes, and then you begin again. Don't worry about what you say, only the way you say it. Also, if you get stuck for words, just start over. You are not writing a script or telling a story here, but practicing a particular way of doing, so focus on that. Notice that I say most gentle. This is important because for acting purposes, just being gentle isn't enough. Just being gentle doesn't focus your activity the way it needs to be focused, and it allows you to avoid really doing the action. And this is the second reason that you do the superlative exercise. Many actors suffer from a lack of the ability to assert themselves. This robs their work of focus and clarity. You have seen these actors, and you may have thought that they never really have force in their work, or that they lack will. What they lack is assertion. Always attempting to do a superlative, to the most or highest degree that you can do it, will train you to assert yourself, and not back off from the action. This ability to stay in the action and keep moving deeper into the doing is very important, because it, above all else, is what tells the audience what kind of strength you have. From the outside, who you are is defined by the way that you do things. But your strength of personality is defined by how deeply you commit yourself to the thing that you are doing. If you are to present a clear, consistent picture of this person to the audience, then your actions must be clear, precise, and committed. To do this, you need to have strong, focused superlatives. To the audience, when you do something with half measures, it is the same as not doing it at all, in terms of the person that you are portraying. So learning and practicing superlatives will allow you to show focused, strong and clear actions to both the other people that are in the story and to the audience. Next, I want to talk a little about what you can use as a superlative. Superlatives are all about doing. They are not about reacting. So one of the things that you can't use are emotions. Emotions are reactions, not actions. The most angry doesn't work for this reason, as well as the most hurt. These are reactions. These are the things that happen inside you because of what others do to you. These are reactions. They are not something that you do, so avoid them and concentrate on the actions that you can do. What way would you respond if someone hurt you? Or, what way would you respond if someone made you angry? Here is a list of some of the more common superlatives. The most: open, honest, casual, innocent, plain, direct, impersonal, firm, earnest, assuring, expressive, precise, cajoling, elevated, flamboyant, passionate, intense, exotic, sensual, languid, savoring, flirtatious. Or the most: free, primitive, depraved, conscientious, sophisticated, sexy, imitative, weird, goofy, understanding, spooky, creepy, dangerous, scary, poetic, romantic, graceful, harsh, correct. Or the most gentle, delicate, obnoxious, cheerful, nasty, sarcastic, profane, vicious, inspiring, reassuring, biting, silly, assaultive. This list is not complete, by any means. It is merely here to give you an idea of the type of superlatives that can be used. Any adverb may be used as a superlative, but not adjectives. Adjectives describe things, not actions. So if you are confused or unsure about whether a particular word can be used, look it up in the dictionary. If it isn't an adverb, pick something else. Also, looking it up is helpful generally, because sometimes we think that we know what the word means, but don't. Or, alternate definitions of that word can give us a new take on the activity that we are doing or the person that we portray. Exercise 4. Tell me about the time exercise. You are at the first day of rehearsal for a play or film. You meet, for the first time, the person who is to be your lover in this story. You are perfect strangers and have never actually met before. Yet, the story calls for you to have been married for 10 years. You obviously can't spend the next 10 years together, getting the history that the story calls for. So what do? You have a week or two, or maybe a few days at best, to develop the sense of years shared together. This is where the next exercise comes in handy. Here is the exercise. And this requires the presence of the other actor. You sit in a comfortable location, where you can feel private, and one of you goes first. You ask the question, starting with these exact words. Tell me about the time that, plus some element of the character's structure, using the author's story as a guideline. Then the other actor gets to tell you a story about that time. Always keep in mind that the story characters, situation and attributes are what is important, not the actor's actual life. A good place to start is when you two met. So you say, for instance, tell me about the time that we first met. When you are making up things to say, the important things to cover are the necessary elements of any event. What happened? How that made you feel? What you did? So, your partner recounts for a little bit, then turns the history over to you. You continue the story from that point. You talk for a little bit, and then turn it back over to your partner. You trade off like this, bit by bit, until you come to the present events of the story. Then you stop. Remember, this is a history exercise, not a scene rehearsal. 3 simple rules. Rule 1. Don't hog the floor, it is a shared exercise. Rule 2. You have to incorporate the facts that your partner makes up into your part of the history. Rule 3. You must remain true to the author's intent and not change the facts of the story. This exercise is sheer inventiveness on the part of the actors. It was designed as a way to fill in the blanks that the author leaves out of the story for lack of time or space, and is designed to give the 2 actors a sense of shared history that they didn't have previously. It is this shared history that gives the audience the feeling that these 2 people have known each other for a long while. But history isn't the only part of a relationship that suffers because the 2 actors are strangers. And that is our next exercise. Exercise 5. The laying face-to-face exercise. Our 2 actors, who have never met, are to play husband and wife, or lovers. Since the story relationship is one with a deep history of intimacy, and since they just met, how do they create this feeling of this intimacy into their work? I know that some witty soul out there is going to think of the very obvious and say that they become lovers for real. Okay, that's said. But let's get back to the real world, where they are professional actors who have wives and husbands or lovers who they are committed to, who, quite frankly and understandably, don't want to sleep with their co-stars. The following exercise is for these professionals. And since this exercise deals with the more intimate parts of the story, it should be done with the director present. You get a blanket and lay it down on the floor. This blanket symbolizes the bed that you have shared for however long. You both lay down on the blanket like you were having a talk before going to sleep. You may move around, but you should not touch each other. And since this exercise is to create a sense of intimacy, you should try to remain lying down and looking at each other. You then go through the scene, from start to finish, within this confined space. Even if the scene calls for you to leave the room, you should not leave the blanket until you have finished the scene. Since this exercise calls for you to talk through the scene, it is usually done when you have both learned the lines. It can be done before then, but the value in the exercise is in the intimacy that it creates between the two actors. Creating this intimacy will be harder if the two actors have their noses in their respective scripts. Additionally, because you two are physically close, there is a tendency to undercut the emotion, to play at less than the full feelings that you would have if you had more room between you. Don't do this. Keep all the emotional values and actions of the scene at as close to the performance level as you can. What if the story calls for just this type of scene? Scenes like this are in stories quite frequently. Since this type of scene almost always involves some sort of physical touching, I would recommend that you do another scene first, to get the actors used to each other. Then I would approach the love scene that the story calls for. However, for the sake of the two actors involved, go easy. Don't push the physical aspects until the two actors have had a chance to get used to each other. Bedroom scenes are tough to do, both physically, for the actors, and emotionally, in terms of intimacy. Strangely, on most films, they are filmed first. Why? Because, if there is no spark between the two actors involved, the film company will know right away, and can make the decision to bring in other actors, without a tremendous reshoot cost. What a business. Exercise 6. Relating the event. This exercise is a form of reality check and is usually done with the director. Its purpose is to gain you a clearer understanding of the events that happen in the scene, and what they mean to you. Here is the exercise. You sit comfortably in a chair. Then you tell the scene to the director, in the form of a story, and you tell it as if you were telling it to your best friend. You tell it from your point of view, and in a point-by-point way. You start at the beginning of the scene, leaving nothing out, and go straight through to the end, using only your own words, none of the text. It's as if you were describing an event that you just came from, and wanted to make everything very clear to your friend. One of the things you want to make clear is how you felt about the various events that you are relating. So don't leave your feelings out. You stop when you get to the end of the section. It's unfortunate that the best use of this exercise is when the actor is not getting a clear understanding of the material. But using this exercise should put you back on track. You can use this exercise at home by yourself, but it is best if you do it with someone who knows the material, like your director. So if you miss a point, the director can prompt you with a question. Which is what the director should do. If the actor misses a story point in their relating of the scene, it is usually only necessary to do this once, but feel free to do it as many times as needed to help clear up the actor's understanding. When you use your own words, you are doing a form of paraphrasing, and that is the next exercise. Exercise 7. The paraphrasing exercise. You pick up a play by Shakespeare. You have been cast to play the villain in one of the histories, say Richard II. You read through the play, and the words that you will have to say look more like Greek than English. You are faithful to Shakespeare though, and you look up all the words that you can, in as many dictionaries that you can find. Though you understand the words, you can't seem to connect. What in the world do you do? Well, the answer to that is that you paraphrase. Paraphrasing is the act of changing the words, but keeping the sense, the real-life meaning, behind the words. And that is what you do in this exercise. You sit with your dictionary, and go through your text, and you find alternate words, or alternate phrases, that will have the same meaning, using words you do know. Then you substitute those words for the ones in the text. But paraphrasing is not just a substitution of one word for the other. The point is that you substitute words that you do know for words of the same definition that you don't know. And the whole point of this is to give you a way to connect to the words that are not familiar to you. There are 3 levels to paraphrasing. The first approach is total paraphrasing. The farther you are away from speaking the way the text does, the more strict you have to be when you paraphrase. In this first level of paraphrasing, everything is paraphrased. That's right, even common words like table, that you know well, are put into alternate terms or expressions. The only exception is proper names and articles like the words and, but, the. Everything else is changed. But let's say that we are not doing Shakespeare, but an author closer to our times. Keep in mind that the level of paraphrasing you do depends not only on the author's historical distance from our time, but on their difference compared to your way of speaking. There are authors who write today in wildly different ways than you speak. So gauge the need to paraphrasing by this difference. Frankly, full paraphrasing is very rarely used. It's a lot of work, and it is seldom needed. But don't avoid it. When you need it, it can be an invaluable tool to cracking even the most difficult of writers. Contrary to popular belief, Shakespeare is not the hardest writer to understand. So, I would recommend doing full paraphrasing on at least one piece of text, just so you know how to do it. Paraphrasing is one of the best tools to get you connected to the text if you are having any problem in that area, especially if the text looks mostly like Greek. The second approach is partial paraphrasing. After you have done the full paraphrasing, you can go to the next level, where you return to the text by using only the words that you actually use in your everyday speech. The word table, that you paraphrased before, as a platform raised to waist height with slender support poles attached to each corner, can return to its common name again. But things like, forsooth, must continue to be paraphrased. Idiomatic and poetic phrases, like the dusty sable dawning brightly, that you don't normally use, should also remain paraphrased. So, now Shakespeare doesn't seem as much like Greek as it did at the start. You can then move to the next level of paraphrasing. The third approach is slight paraphrasing. This is the last stage that you will use before returning to the full text. In this stage, you drop all but the most stubborn of the author's words from being paraphrased. You use as much of the text as seems natural to you now. But by now, even the most stubborn of phrases should be making some sense. Or, if you don't get it, paraphrase. A final note. The one thing to keep in mind about any acting exercise is that they all have one main function. This function is to help you connect to the person you are playing. If an exercise doesn't help you do that, then don't do that exercise, do one that does help. Our Actorland tour bus will be leaving for the next section. All aboard. Thanks for watching.